By the 120-day social contract verdict, as the main opposition MPP scores John Mahama 46% ahead of the president's national address on his achievements in the last 120 days.
Will be broadcasting to the nation, and he meant every word that he said to the people of Ghana.
If you put it together, the yes, if it is true, that's about 46%. Which university lecturer will give you 46% and you will pass the exam?
We have an independent assessment of the social contract, plus hear your own verdict.
Because we'll keep running around in circles and we'll just come back to the same point.
Also tonight, it's deadline day for all government appointees to file their asset or get fired. Tonight, we find out who is in and who is out. As some appointees confirmed to JoyNews, they have finally met the deadline.
So I was able to declare mine yesterday. I actually did it yesterday.
Yes, long ago.
What constituted the delay?
Oh, I think it was just some one or two things I had to make sure that it was on the form. So that's how come there was a little bit of delay.
Details as retired Supreme Court Judge Justice Atuguba cautions the president against sacking defaulting appointees.
You are a president, you don't take care, you are too strict and mechanical, and you can be pushed to even sacrifice your good materials on things like this. Every provision has its purpose. What's the purpose of the declaration of the assets?
And in business, declining food prices push April inflation to 21.2% as the fiscal service signals further reduction in the rate in the coming months.
And in sports, Thomas Partey returns for Arsenal against Inter Milan as they look to overturn the one-goal deficit for a place in the final against Inter Milan. Well, they play PSG tonight.
You want to stay with us. Plus, why is the Cedi performing wonders against the dollar and other currencies in the last few weeks? We have an analysis.
The notable performance we've had has been supported by the significant accumulation in gold reserves. As a result of our domestic gold purchase program, we've also had significant foreign exchange purchases.
You want to stay with us, plus your views and comments, 055-11-11997. Details after this. So live your news 90s on Joy 99.7 FM. President Mahama set himself a target to achieve 25 key indicators in his first 120 days in office. Well, tonight is the deadline, and he is set to address the nation from scrapping the e-levy and betting tax to eliminating the COVID-19 levy. Mahama pledged swift action. In just 2 hours, he'll face the nation. The MPP isn't waiting. They've already delivered a verdict, branding his performance a failure. We'll hear their position on the particular matter and the public reactions pretty shortly. But first, what exactly did President Mahama promise, and has he kept his word? Caleb Ziblim is with our research desk and joins us in the studio right now. Caleb, let's go through the list.
So he has nominated his cabinet ministers within the first 14 days. He has constituted the leanest government we've seen for the past few years, established a code of conduct for government officials, and within that code of conduct, he also banned political appointees from purchasing state assets. Also, he held a national economic dialogue, allocated seed money for the Women's Development Bank, launched the Ejumarua program, the National Apprenticeship program, and the 1 million coders program as well. He has also established the Accelerated Export Development Council. Also, he held a consultative conference on education, implemented the no academic fees policy for first-year students, introduced the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, or the Mahama Cares, distributed free sanitary pads to female students, and also launched the Black Star Experience for tourism.
Okay, so these are the promises in the social contract that has fully been achieved.
Yes.
In the last 120 days.
In the last 120 days.
How many are they?
We have 13 of them out of the 25.
So 13 of them completely achieved.
Yes.
So that's executed.
Exactly.
And then you also have some in progress. How many?
We have 7 of them in progress. And they are the scrapping of the draconian taxes, as he called it, which is the e-levy, COVID levy, and betting tax. He has scrapped the e-levy, betting tax, and the emissions levy, but the COVID levy remains outstanding. Also, prepare a 24-hour economy policy implementation That was mentioned in the 2025 budget, but that has not been implemented. Also, yes, he says he'll compensate flood victims in Oti, Bono East, and the Savannah regions. These were budgeted in the 2025 budget, but no compensation has been made yet. Also, pro-VRA and Pong Dam spillage impacts. The Energy Ministry has set up a committee, but then there's no reports out yet. Also, reopen investigations into unresolved criminal cases. We have seen some headway in the murder of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale, but then that's it. Also, conduct forensic audits on financial mismanagement cases. Again, we've seen some headway in some of the cases involving the National Signals Bureau boss, but then that ends it there. And also, ban illegal mining and activities in forest reserves. We've seen the amendments of the LI 2462, but then that has not been repealed entirely. However, he has launched the Tree for Life and Blue Water initiatives.
Okay, but there's some that they have failed to touch.
And yes, we have 5 of them. And they are review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agric. This has not been done. We also have reviewed the Customs Act to allow salvaged vehicle imports. Again, this has not been done. Restructure loss-making SOEs for profitability. Again, we've seen some headway in the ECG privatization conversation, but there again, this has not been done. Also, streamline government scholarship administration. The education minister says they would introduce a bill in parliament, but again, this has not been done. And finally, pair security agencies of militia and vigilante elements. We've not heard anything publicly from that.
Let's look at the percentages now. Has he achieved?
So from our checks, he has achieved 52%. That's a little about half of it, but however, he has not achieved all of them.
Okay, so let's break it down. So for those that we have checked and we can say he has achieved, that comes down to in percentage terms?
52%.
52%. And those that we can say are in progress?
Well, that's 28%.
And then those they fail to achieve?
That's 20%.
Okay, so that's a breakdown from our own perspective. And if you want to join us on PMX, we have a special show that will begin with the coverage of the President's own address to the nation on his 120-day social contract. We are partnering with Imani. They have a report on the 120-day social contract that we will be launching and analyzing. We'll hear the president assess himself, and then we'll do an independent analysis of that based on a thorough, detailed work that our partners Imani had done. You want to join us for that on PM Express. We're going to be joined by civil society, but also be joined by the MPP, the alternative voice, and we'll be joined by Felix Kwachifusu too. So tonight is a special conversation, and already the verdicts are flying in. We're going to be hearing from the MPP pretty shortly, but we're also hearing on the economy from Professor Stephen Adai, who's a former GIMPA rector, who has delivered the following verdict on the economic performance of the government in the last 120 days.
In the economy, so far, I think that he must be commended for the steps that he has taken, how sustainable it is, but one has to wait. But I think that the depreciation of the Cedi has been arrested. I think that even though to some extent artificially done, and there's a sign as an economist, some dichotomy or disjoint between fiscal and monetary policies. But look, all governments learn on the job, even though he claims to have years of experience. The type of economic situation he's in, his experience is almost useless because you have never had this haircut before. So better be humble and learn. But I believe that they have the capacity of reconciling both the economic, the fiscal, and monetary policies. We are these specific things, deliverables, when it comes to education, a lot of noise, and also in the health area, Mahama case, we can do it for a short time on a sustainable basis. The whole health system should be addressed. And I think that they must be humble to build upon the past government's initiatives.
Well, the main opposition MPP, they have a completely different view on this. Listen to the Deputy General Secretary, Haruna Mohammed, delivering their own verdict.
The Ghanaian people will agree with we, the MPP, with respect to the assessment of John Mahama's 320 days. Nobody forced him. He gave us about 26 promises. I heard your analyst gave explanation to some of the areas and considering them done. He talked about the no academic fee policy. It is not done. Go to the schools and ask the persons who are attending the schools. No single university student fee has been paid. First year student, nobody has been paid. Nobody has been refunded to.
Right.
Again, the free tertiary education for persons with disability. No person with disability fee has been paid. Nobody. And I am very surprised that in all these assessments, that people are saying he has done well. I've heard the university lecturer talking about it. I've also heard
the economist,
right?
Yes,
the economists. They talk about it.
Right.
They are talking about averagely their performance on the economy. How can these people perform on the economy when a growth of economy of 5.7 is handed to them?
But Mr. Haruna, at least the promises, 25 of them in the first 120 days, at least many of them have been achieved so far. Is that not good?
Let me give you some fair analysis of this particular instance. In analyzing the 25, it's not 25, it's 26. He has 26 policies for the first 120 days, 26. And if you look at it, those that they have done partially, but if you are fair, just to give to them, is 7. If you can say, okay, yes, we'll give you 12, and then the no's are 7. If you put it together, the yes, if it is 12, that's about 46%. Which university lecturer will give you 46% and you will pass the exams? In which university in the world that you will get 46% and you will get a pass mark?
So that's a view of the MPP there. I want to quickly bring in Professor Godfred Bokping. He's a professor of finance at the University of Ghana. Anthony Morrison is the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. Before we hear them, though, many of you have also been delivering your own verdict because really the social contract is a contract with you, the people. I want to take you to the Ashanti region. A few residents commended the president's efforts so far. Some also admitted that the promised change hasn't reflected in their wallets just yet.
Pacho, obey 4 months in Obaby betting tax free. Emma you say, was the question at Bemu? Never walk or sort and you easy my more than and nobody who could you make tired. Think it's in 50 cities. I can get a can see you 50 cities. And more than. And this was promises that woman name my MLA or about the 10 year master and yes, I know you. Ntia all share na oma niema mu nyemle man na niema mu engu maye kura niema mu ondin.
Right. She feels that the abolished taxes have been, been introduced in a certain forms that are making life very difficult for her as a trader. But I'll engage more people to ascertain their assessment. How do you assess the president's 120 days in office?
First of all, I think he's trying, and then secondly, there are particular things that I feel he's not addressing well concerning the issue of the reversal of the law that allows mining in forest reserves. Measures have been put in place to restore our waters and our reserves, but the law itself that stops the law itself that allows mining to still go on has not been reversed, so which is the major problem. I feel like if we don't reverse the law first, then it is a useless thing we are doing, because we'll keep running around in circles and we'll just come back to the same point. So first of all, the president should focus on reversing that law that allows mining in forest reserves and then move on to restoring our waters and our forest reserves.
That is a citizen sharing opinion and distress over the mining laws that have not been abolished as promised by the president. What do you also make of 120 days of President John Dramani Mahama's office?
All right, I think first of all, his commitment to sign a 120-day social contract with Ghanaians is a good sign that he's going to deliver.
Professor Godfrey Bokwing is a professor of finance and at the University of Ghana. Anthony Morrison, CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, both of them join me now. Prof, let me start with you as far as the economy is concerned. In the last 120 days, how will you, I know you are a professor, so let's start first with the score. What will be your score?
Evans, well, let me give my reasons, and then hopefully, if I'm able to arrive at the score, then that is it. But I want us to adopt a more a kind of a humility in how we understand how the 120 day has gone. 20 days have gone essentially, because there's no suffering in the system. If you want to assess the 120-day social contracts in terms of how this has impacted people's lives, then the gap is very wide. The gap is very wide. Yes, of course, we can understand that it will take a while before some of these interventions would manifest explicitly in the lives of Ghanaians.
I mean, you made that point about reflecting in people's lives. How about the scrapping of the e-levy, the scrapping of the 10% betting levy, the emissions levy? Those ones have a direct impact on your pocket, does it not?
Yes, so you want to also, yeah, I agree with you. You want to look at things in proportional terms as well. So, for instance, I believe that in the 120-day social contract, there are some low-hanging fruits that, with better implementation, we can say they have checked the box. I will give you an example. The commitment to pay first-year fees, I think it shouldn't take this long. There wasn't clarity as to how that will be tracked. And at what point would we say it has been done? Because has it reflected in the lives of those beneficiaries? I don't think it has. And to the extent that the intended target hasn't been reached, you cannot say you have delivered. You have delivered. Then again, when it comes to, people with disability and the rest of them, and all of that. So it's also more about implementation and clarity as to how this ought to be assessed. But then when it comes to, let's say, the environment, I think I hold a different view that the president hasn't done well in the area of environmental integrity. I believe that the agency that we were expecting, because this is an existential threat. This shouldn't be the approach. This shouldn't be the approach in addressing existential threats. So from that point of view, I think that my score for the president is very, very low. I believe that there were low-hanging fruits in that space, revoking the LI, declaring state of emergency, right, and all of that. To the extent that all of this having been done, and we cannot say that we have actually put a stop to irresponsible, including illegal mining. I don't think we can say we have put a stop to that. And the biggest threat to our common future today is irresponsible.
Hold that thought for me, and I'll return to you to get that score based on your overall assessment of how the economy has performed the last 120 days. But let me bring in Anthony Morrison. Mr. Morrison, so I see in the 120-day social contract, one part of it that has a direct bearing on your sector, the agric sector. The point 3 says review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agriculture. That we have it down as not touched at all. It hasn't been completed. It's not even one you can say they are currently implementing or in progress. It hasn't been touched. Give me your assessment. Oh, I have lost him there. Since I have lost him, Prof will now have a shorter time to give me a score. He's been marking the president in the last few minutes. Prof, do you have a score yet based on your overall assessment?
I wanted to give my reasons so that perhaps you can understand my score
Where you're landing.
eventually.
Okay, if you don't mind wrapping up the reasons for me, then land on the score.
Yes, when it comes to scrapping those taxes, of course, with the exception of COVID-19 health levy, which I think should have been done much earlier, and all of that, I think that the president has done quite well in those areas. Then again, when it comes to consolidating confidence in the economy and the signal in terms of the kind of leadership we were expecting, of course, given what has happened in the last 2.5 years and all of that, I think the president has done quite well from that angle. But of course, if you look at where we have come from, especially with the fiscal outcome from 2024 election and all of that, I think the president is showing leadership in terms of fiscal discipline in the midst of tax cuts, expenditure cuts and all of that, a lean government and all of that. But I think overall, I'll put it at just around 52%, right? 52%. I'm not looking at it in terms of counts, but of course, I'm weighing the evidence as well. I think that is good to start with. But let's also understand it that there are constraints, and some of those constraints will require a bit of time to be able to address them. If you look at fight against corruption, the president's bold decision about even sacking ministers for non-compliance with the asset declaration. I think we haven't seen things like this in the last couple of years and all of that. But it's still a long way to go. But if we are also looking at whether we have seen transformative interventions in the last 120 days, I would say no, because the policy on 24-hour economy is yet to be launched. And all of that, we've seen the other interventions, Jumera, Akukon, and the rest of them. But to the extent that, and then again, you want to also situate all of these interventions within the broader budget space. If you look at the shock therapy that has been applied to the 2025 budget, that limits government in terms of how they can spend in the critical sectors of the economy to stimulate growth. So if you look at it carefully, government is operating at around 60%, right? If you look at allocation to ministries, it's gone down drastically. So we are doing things in the immediate, okay, more or less for short-term praise. But we have to be mindful that we are not sacrificing our medium to long-term survivability for short-term praise.
Yeah, and Prof, your score is 52%. I'm curious, in today's academic terms, what grade is 52%?
Hello?
The grade, 52%, is it a pass?
Yeah, that's a pass.
That's a pass.
And
okay.
I think it's a good to start with.
Okay. Yeah. Prof, thank you very much. That's Professor Godfrey Bokping there, giving John Mahama a pass, 52%, which, by the way, aligns with our own independent analysis that we brought to you earlier, 52%, based simply on the number of promises made, how many has been achieved so far, how many still in progress, and how many they haven't touched. One of them they haven't touched is the one that deals with agriculture, and Anthony Morrison is back with me on the line. He is the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Mr. Morrison, thanks for your time here on Newsnight. There's a part of this that I was recounting earlier, review taxes on imported vehicles and equipment for industry and agriculture. We have that down as not achieved. What's your own assessment of the 120 days as it relates to your industry?
Well, thank you very much. So the Chamber have been following the removal of taxes on certain critical agricultural machinery. We are, in fact, in touch with the military, and we have been engaging them. I remember they also having this discussion with the GRA boss on the guideline of the National Economic Dialogue. Overall, I think that it's been a fruitful discussion so far. They are looking at the modalities, but one thing we're told is that this will be integrated into the agribusiness of the Ministry of Trade. So we are waiting to see the new agribusiness policy and also the strategy, how it's going to be implemented. Our last engagement with the minister last week shows that there will be a national dialogue on agribusiness to look at the policy and the strategy. And I must say that the Chamber is very much grateful for the fact that we are going to look at a national agribusiness policy and also a national agribusiness implementation strategy.
So I hear you say that as far as the 121 days are concerned, in terms of implementing the policies that will advance your sector, you are yet to see movement, but you have assurances that conversations will be done about broader policy objectives.
Certainly, because some of these can't be done outside the policy environment. It must align with the policy, the national strategy, and also the president's vision for the country. So we believe strongly that with the establishment of the integration of the agribusiness into the Ministry of Trade, this is going to fast track the implementation and also work on the removal of some of these nuisance tactics in the agriculture sector.
If I ask you to give me a score, what will your score be as far as the agri sector is concerned? The assessing the president's performance in the last 120 days.
Well, I will look at the launching of the Ghana Feed program. I will look at this week's launching of the committee to work on the accelerated export. I will also look at the fact that within the budget, the agriculture sector has been giving some strong support. So, in fact, it will be some B plus. I would like to give to the government. B plus in the sense that the current environment for the sector, and Evans, most especially, we are grinding start of the season. I mean, where in the service sector, the season has kicked. Okay, we doing maize plantation, we're controlling weeds, we're controlling the fall armyworm, but in the northern sector, the season is yet to pick up, waiting for some few rain. So it will only be up to about September to put a better analysis. But on the 120-day social contract, I think a B plus, the president have done a good job.
Okay, so that's a B plus for the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana. Anthony Morrison is the CEO there. BoG, who is a professor, gave the president a pass, 52%. One major positive, at least if you listen to the Ghana Union of Traders Association yesterday in the statement that they put out applauding the government for keeping the Cedi in very healthy position against the dollar, really, and it has dropped now in terms of the depreciation has been very stable over the last few weeks, but also has seen the exchange rate stability. But the Cedi actually appreciating. It's currently now dropped from 16 Cedi to $1. It's now around 13 Cedi plus to the dollar. We'll be hearing from Guta pretty shortly how this is impacting their business, but I want to bring in my colleague Caleb Ziblim, who's joining me in the studio, is still on this matter. We've been looking at what really is accounting for this. Many are looking at it saying this is also happening at a time when traditionally and historically, in a period where the Cedi is expected to depreciate. There's a lot of pressure in the first quarter, but the Cedi has held its own and has actually appreciated in some instances. In the last few weeks, it has actually been performing better.
Yeah.
Right? What have we learned are the reasons why we're witnessing this improvement in the Cedi's performance?
So, Evans, we've identified two main factors that explain the recent strength. The first is a surge in foreign exchange inflows in the first quarter of the year. So, gold exports brought in around $2.3 billion in just the first 2 months of the year. And this is Ghana's highest gold-driven forex inflow since 2016. Also, cocoa exports have also seen a major rebound. They brought in around $835 million in the same period, up from roughly $300 million last year. These gains are largely due to record high global gold and cocoa prices. The second is the US dollar itself has been weakening. From January to April, the value of the US dollar has dropped by around 7%. And this is mainly because of the uncertainty in the US. Trump's trade and protectionist policies have spooked investors, and he has suggested replacing the head of the US Federal Reserve. So these signals have raised concerns about a slower US growth and caused investors to shift from the US dollar more towards gold, which has also benefited Ghana because we export a lot of gold. So together, the stronger commodity prices and a softer US dollar has created ideal conditions for the current appreciation we are seeing.
And a further I guess, factor there, which it also makes the stability and in some cases, in the last 1 week or so, the appreciation very interesting is that around this time is when the government normally will get the cocoa syndicated loan in that would have shored up the Cedi's performance quite strongly. That is not available now.
Yes.
In spite of that, it's still holding firm. And George Afro will join us pretty shortly. I know he's been speaking to the BoG officials, and so he gave us some sense of what this means for us going forward, but also the key question about sustainability of the gains. The head of BoG's Financial Markets Department, Ni Soa Ahulu, confirms to us in his interview speaking on Beyond the Numbers on the JoyNews channel that the Cedi's appreciation is due to the central bank's injection of nearly $500 million into the forex market.
The notable performance we've had has been supported by the significant accumulation in gold reserves. As a result of our domestic gold purchase program, we've also had significant foreign exchange purchases from the mines and the international oil companies. We've also had significant inflows from cocoa. We've also had significant and strong inflows from remittances. We've also had some significant corporate FX inflows, which has together, or I would say collectively, supported the Cedi over the period. Let me indicate that what the bank does is to provide support to significant sectors when there is build-up in demand pressures. So you're right. In April, the demand you see there was coming out of increases in demand from the energy sector, from manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods, and the like, which is what is accounting for what you see. But significant proportion of it is mostly for the energy sector support to ensure that payments are on track, which provides stability for us on the energy sector as well as its overall impact on economic growth.
Well, Charles Kusiapia is the head of business and economic bureau at the Ghana Union Traders Association. They issued a statement last night applauding the current government for keeping the Cedi very stable at a time when they were expecting it to depreciate. He joins us on the line right now. It is a very rare statement, Apia Kubi, to hear Guta applauding government, especially when it comes to the Cedi and its relationship with the dollar. What really is happening on the market that makes you so confident that this is such a positive signal that is affecting your business positively?
Evans, good evening to your listeners, and thank you for the opportunity. Basically, our medium of transaction has been the forex. And some years back, when forex hikes were going high, we were complaining that it was depleting our working capital. And the inflation in the forex market was making it very difficult for business to project and have a predictability into their businesses. But when you observe the forex performance from January up to March, you saw some stability. For us as businesses, stability gives us some respite. And a downward trend of steady gaining strength over the flourish is another hope that there's certain positive trajectory in the economic environment, which for us is a sign of refinancing our working capital, refinancing our businesses. Over the period, we have said that the private sector is the engine of growth of every economy. But when we are in an environment when forests are performing at Cedi, it means we are having challenges with our capital. We cannot grow to support the economic rebound. The reverse is that now we can have some capital to apply back into the economy to see economic growth.
Well,
so like government can also have a kind of revenue in terms of taxation to meet its economic demand.
How is this reflecting in the price of goods on the market sold by Guta members?
You see, forest is not the only determinant when it comes to price build-up in the FMCG or the trading market. There are other factors. We're looking at borrowing rates, we are looking at tariffs, and other challenges like the VAT. But if one leg of the economic indicators started doing well, it suggests that they will have positive tendencies on these other indicators.
So have you reduced your prices then?
Currently, yes. There's stability in terms of price in the market. We're hoping that this success that been checked in the forest market will be sustained so that we can see a drop in prices graciously. Because forest is coming down, inflation is also coming down. That suggests that the price of items obviously will come down.
Well, thank you very much. And by the way, arguably, this is possibly one of the biggest positives in the last 4 months. And today, Georgia Face here with me in the studio. The inflation numbers were published
to 21.2% for the month of April.
And then you're just hearing Guta say prices are now very stable, but they are hoping that this is sustainable a period so you can actually see prices begin to drop, at least from the perspective of their members. The thing about the performance of the Cedi is that when it does well and gains ground against the dollar in particular, it affects almost everything. It affects inflation, it affects prices.
Fuel. And if you dig down the numbers, you realize that if you look at prices of some food items, actually, and you do the comparison from last year April to this year April, the rate of increase has actually slowed. If you look at one of the biggest items in the basket, if you look at alcohol and food as well, it went down marginally. And then if you look at prices of petroleum products and all the rest, it went down by more than 1.5%. So you realize that all these pieces of indicators are going down. And that is what we are seeing at the end of the day. You just don't want to put the factor on just one thing. On the Cedi, a lot of factors have worked for us. And it's not just one thing. You say, it's government doing this. On the fiscal side, you have an IMF program that has put some pressure on government that we are seeing the results on the fiscal area. On the monetary side as well, we shouldn't forget about what Bank of Ghana has done over the past months in terms of their strong gold build-up as well, and all those confidence signals pushing to the market as well, even.
And right up to business, we'll tell you which minister has finally managed to declare their assets. Those who may be getting the sack and those who will get a president's nod going forward, because the deadline was 5 p.m. just less than 2 hours ago. We'll tell you that after business. George.
Well, events are coming up. Declining food prices pushed April inflation to 21.2% as fiscal service signals for the reduction in the coming months if government sticks to the current fiscal consolidation measures. And the Ghana Chamber of Commerce and Industry, if there was reduction in prices of goods and services as a result of the city's performance, would be dependent on the local currency's good run being sustained in the coming months. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials, Center Tanks and Pepsodent Herbal and Charcoal. You're welcome back to business on Newsnight. Now, the slowdown in the general price levels of some food items continue to impact positively on inflation. Now, this helped push April inflation to 21.2%. There is more in this report.
According to the Ghana Statistical Service, another contributing factor for the inflation rate.
Apologize for that challenge with the sound there. In a related development, the new government statistician, Dr. Hassan Idrisu, has maintained that the end of year inflation target of 12% by government is achievable, only if it sticks to the current fiscal and monetary measures.
Attempt to consolidate the fiscal. If you look at the primary balance on commitment basis, for example, for 2024, that was a deficit of 3.9%. The government has decided to improve the primary balance on commitment basis from the deficit 3.9% in 2024 to a surplus of 1.5% in 2025. This is a significant fiscal concern. In fact, if this is achieved, it would really significantly and strongly contribute to the achievement of the 12% target that has been set. Number two, if you look at it from the Bank of Ghana side, from the monetary policy side, the Bank of Ghana has also signaled its intention to intervene to tighten monetary policy.
New government statistician Dr. Hassan Idrisu. Now, the Bank of Ghana has linked the recent dollar induction onto the market as payment for the energy sector rather than artificial measures aimed at shoring up the Ghana cedi. Now, latest data from the commercial bank showed that some significant dollar flows to the market has led to some linking it to what they would describe as artificial measures aimed at stabilizing the Ghana cedi. But the Bank of Ghana is actually rejecting this. Let's hear from the acting head of financial market at the Bank of Ghana, Ni Soa Ahulu.
Indicate that what the bank does is to provide support to significant sectors when there is build-up in demand pressures. So you're right. In April, the demand you see there was coming out of increases in demand from the energy sector, from manufacturing, fast-moving consumer goods, and the like, which is what is accounting for what you see. But a significant proportion of it is mostly for the energy sector support.
Ni Soa Ahulu is the acting head of financial markets at the Bank of Ghana. Let's still stay on the Ghana cedi because the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry has maintained that prices of goods and services could be reduced in the coming months if the cedi's recent performance is sustained. Let's hear from the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Bidwabwaji.
It may not be as immediate. I mean, if you observe what is happening with the interbank and also the forex, you realize that there is a significant difference in prices, which means that the business community are also observing what is going on. So now people are a bit cautious to react to this improvement. I mean, if it's sustainable, then others people obviously will have no option than to transfer this or this improvement being reflected in prices. But
Mark Bidwabwaji is the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce has reaffirmed this commitment to deepening the trade ties between Ghana and the United Kingdom. Speaking at a networking event hosted by the Chamber, Executive Director Joba Chama said that it will continue to roll out strategic initiatives aimed at supporting Ghana-based members and strengthening the business collaboration across both markets.
First quarter of 2025 has been mixed. So in some ways it's been good. We've been very busy. We've run a number of programs. And so, yes, in that regard, it's been very, very active. It's something that we do at the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce where every quarter we host a fun networking event. In between, we also organize our capacity building programs. Some of them are in person, some of them are virtual. And we also host sector committee meetings where member companies can meet to discuss issues that are affecting their businesses so that we can undertake some advocacy work for them.
Joba Chama is the Executive Director of the UK Ghana Chamber of Commerce. Now, if you are a shareholder of MTN Ghana, well, some good news for you is that each share that you're holding now, the close of trading today was up by 8 pesos to close 3 Ghana cedis, 29 pesos. Looks like their solid financial performance is impacting on the share price of MTN Ghana on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you.
Well,
Evans. Now we are playing. It wasn't yesterday. So Arsenal PSG. Well, Inter, it will be an interesting final.
John, thank you very much. Now, it's known as a tree of life, feeding families, curing illness, and sustaining generations. But in the Upper East region town of Binduri, the baobab tree is dying. In communities like Bansi, changing weather patterns and environmental decline are crippling a tree that once held entire communities together. Today on Climate Focus, JoyNews' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin brings you a story of fading roots, lost livelihoods, and a call for urgent action.
Across the savannas of northern Ghana, the baobab tree towers like an ancient guardian, but today these giants are in distress. In Binduri, especially in the Bansik community, farmers are seeing the trees slowly die and are no longer producing fruits.
When I moved into this house, the flourishing baobab tree was a valuable resource for us. We would harvest its leaves to make nutritious soups. However, over the past 3 years, the tree has struggled with poor fruit production. To make matters worse, whenever it does produce fruit, pests seem to appear, further diminishing its yield. This decline has been concerning, and finding a solution to restore the tree's health and productivity has become a priority.
Baobab leaves are an important part of meals in northern Ghana. The fruit is full of vitamin C, but now some baobab trees have stopped growing leaves.
The baobab tree is no longer yielding enough leaves and fruit. You will need to buy them elsewhere. Additionally, the tree's shade is diminishing, and we are unsure what's causing its decline.
All right, yeah. So economically, we will harvest the fruit and sell. People buy the fruit and prepare local drink because of the sour nature of it. Some people use it to prepare teas. Others also use it mixed with flour to prepare porridge. So people used to buy, we harvest the fruit and they'll buy it. And also the leaves. The leaves also is nutritious, and so people buy it and prepare soup. We'll get money out of it. We'll make money. We used to make money out of it.
Experts say there are many reasons. The weather keeps changing and windstorms happen without warning. Trees that lived for hundreds of years are now falling because they can't fight these problems. Some farmers are asking for help. They want research and protection for one of Africa's most important natural resources. Unless urgent action is taken to steady, restore and protect, the tree of life may become a tree of the past. A report by Mohamed Nuruddin.
Climate Focus is brought to you by JoyNews in partnership with Youth Bridge Foundation, bridging gaps for positive youth development, and the Climate Development Knowledge Network.
Well, it's nearly 2 hours since the deadline for all appointees of John Mahama to declare their assets or be sacked. John Mahama 2 months ago gave a strict directive to his appointees to file their assets before 31st of March 2025. It, however, emerged that over 50 of the appointees defied that directive. On Monday, they were given a fresh deadline, 48 hours, that expired at 5 p.m. today. So it's gone now. James Abedi is joining me right now in the studio. James, who are some of the appointees who failed to meet the initial deadline?
Them include presidential staffers Nathan Kofi Boachi, Setekpe, Nanaya Jantua, and Samuel Ofosu Ampofo. Others include ministers Al Hassan Suhene, Isnalis, Rita Odole Sowa, John Dumelo are all in that list. And thankfully, we've been hearing from John Dumelo as well as the acting registrar for HEFRA, Dr. Ban. They've been telling us that they, as far as they are concerned, they've been able to meet the deadline for the 5 p.m. today.
So I was able to declare mine yesterday. I actually did it yesterday.
So as we speak, the Auditor General has received your asset declaration envelope.
Yes, please. He has, and I've also sent it to SIGA. So SIGA has a copy.
What led to the earlier delay, though?
I must say, some of us were appointed later on. I think the emphasis was placed more during.
Apologies there with that glitch in the inkset. But John Dumelo also, did he explain to you what caused the initial delay?
Yes, he said there were some corrections he needed to do on the list as well as include other items on it, and that's the reason why he wasn't able to meet the 31st deadline.
Okay, thank you very much. So listening to News Night is on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll be crossing over to our colleagues from the sports desk to bring you that commentary. Very important indeed. Now, thousands of traders dedicated to a market in Kumasi are living in uncertainty due to the faulty firefighting installations and the disregard for safety precautions. Despite a recent major fire that destroyed at least 20 shops, fire safety equipment such as cabinets, sprinklers, and smoke detectors remain unused. The market currently lacks fire insurance due to its poor fire protection infrastructure. This is the latest episode in our Fire Cycle series.
On March 15, 2023, the usual trading at the KGT market had neared its conclusion until a major fire devastation tore through portions of the market. Traders left helpless as they escaped the fire scene without even looking back to salvage their goods. The market, which supposedly had a better fire system, failed to save the millions of items contained in shops caught up in the blaze. 2 years after the incident, the traders are yet to have their lives back to normalcy. Nathaniel Bwamponsim leads the KGT fire victims.
I operated 3 shops. My family depends on me. And now I'm not working for like 2 years. You know, it's not easy. The people at home who even call you to also ask you money. Being the leader of the fire victims, at times you have to go to an extent of asking people money just to support. And that is so bad.
The KGT market is Ghana's largest and ultra-modern market, serving as a one-stop facility for various goods and transport services. The $200 million market center houses over 8,000 stalls and shops. After the fire devastation, the traders had hoped the new market would be insulated against another blaze, but it still stands without a standard life and property protection equipment. The network of over 100 sprinklers and smoke detectors on the market ceiling are yet to find their purpose. Fire cabinets at the markets have gathered dust and are now in a deplorable state with its delivery holes punctured. Nana Akwesi Prempe is the president of the Federation of KGT Traders Association.
The entire firefighting system within the market is suspect with regard to what was originally implanted into the market. We will say it's, let's say, 3/10. We as traders, we know that if it gets to the situation where we are supposed to fund for it, why not? After all, they will be protecting our wares for us. So we would have paid for it.
The sprinklers at the markets are defective, but the market has naturally found its way to rain drops of water to probably douse the next fire that may erupt. But the water is a mixture of liquid waste running through plastic pipes. See how the water is dripping onto my goods. We have fetched 10 basins of this water every time it drips. There have been several recommendations on the fire situation at the markets, but they seem to have fallen on deaf ears. A stitch in time, they say, saves 9. For JoyNews, my name is Emmanuel Bright-Kweku.
And my name is Evans Mensah. I want to take you to the Lennox Bar and Restaurant at the Atlantic Tower Airport City pretty shortly for that Champions League game between PSG and Arsenal. Stay with us here on Joy 99.7 FM.